Welcome back to 2012. Obama is your president, and Gangnam Style is rocketing up the music charts, and the Nissan Pathfinder is actually quite new. Pathfinder. That name invokes something. It invokes off-road readiness, ruggedness. But for the past couple of years, the 4th generation Nissan Pathfinder has been more mall crawler than rock crawler. This is a 7-seat SUV, competes against the Toyota Highlander, the Honda Pilot, and unfortunately for Nissan, the Kia Telluride and Hyundai Palisade, which are all new and really nice. This hasn't been updated in quite a while, but for 2019, this is a 2020, Nissan introduced this new Rock Creek Edition package. So it's $995. You can get it either on the SV or the SL trim. We have the SV, which is a little bit lower tier, costs a little over 40 grand, but you get a lot for your 995 bucks. You get a black front fascia, different fascia down here, makes the Pathfinder look a little bit less mall crawler and a little bit more aggressive. You get these really cool 18-inch wheels. I actually really like how these look with all-season tires. And I'm not a huge fan of plastic fenders, but I think they do work here to make the Pathfinder look a little bit more aggressive. That also comes as part of the Rock Creek package. And if you didn't know that you had a Rock Creek just by looking at it, boom, right here, you've got a Rock Creek badge. Around back, the badges that say SV or SL, whichever one you get, those are going to be blacked out as well. And if you do get four-wheel drive, you can get front-wheel drive as well. The four-wheel drive badge on the back will also be black along with these handles, and you also get some black roof racks up here. Inside, you're going to get some special stuff as well. You see the $995 keeps going on in here. You get unique metallic interior trim, and if you do get the SV, the model that we have, you get partial leatherette seats on the outside with like a cloth on the inside. They're extremely comfortable. Nissan's zero gravity seats always are, and they have Rock Creek sewn into the backs with orange stitching. So I think all of that works pretty well. So if you are going to get a Pathfinder, I think the Rock Creek is a great one to get. Now let's go ahead and get the Nissan Pathfinder out on the road. Nissan hasn't changed much in terms of how the Pathfinder drives, so we're not going to spend too much time out on the road, but I will talk to you about what powers the Pathfinder. It's a tried and true 3.5 liter V6. It's Nissan's VQ series. They've been making these things for years, and even though this engine is as old as a medieval castle, it produces pretty healthy horsepower figures, 284 horsepower, 259 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are actually pretty average for the class, and no matter which drivetrain you choose, you're going to be getting a CVT that's a continuously variable transmission. Nissan absolutely loves these. Basically, instead of gears, you have a band that changes ratios. It produces basically one gear, so to speak, so you never feel a change. The big problem with these always was that it creates like a drone from the engine when you go to accelerate. So we're about to make a turn here. Let me show you what I'm on about here. So I'm going to go ahead and go for some acceleration here, and let's listen to the engine. All right, so it kind of executed a shift there right at the top of the rev range. This car doesn't feel necessarily too powerful. I drove this engine about a year ago in the Murano, which is smaller than this, and it did feel a little bit more sprightly than this. The responsiveness is actually pretty okay. I go to put my foot on the gas, and you do get a pretty instant response from the engine. The problem is there's just so much weight that the Pathfinder doesn't really like to get moving all that quick. But that is one of the big advantages of a CVT, is that it does allow you to access the power quite quickly. It also works really well in terms of fuel economy. You're going to get, with four-wheel drive as configured with this one, you're going to get 20 mpg in the city, 27 on the highway, and 22 combined. That's pretty darn good, actually. And you can deactivate the all-wheel drive, so I have a little drive mode controller down here, two-wheel drive, auto, and then I can lock it into four-wheel drive if you're going to do any light off-roading. This isn't really an off-road vehicle, but it does have hill descent control, so it can kind of go down those steep inclines if you do live on like a dirt gravel road or something like that. 0 to 60, not going to be quick, high 7-second range, maybe about 8 seconds. But impressively, the Pathfinder will tow 6,000 pounds. That's pretty good for the segment. It's about 1,000 pounds more than most of its mid-size 3-row competition. Now, in terms of driving, the Pathfinder rides very well. It's relatively quiet, definitely not the quietest that I've driven, but it's not too terrible. It does get a little bit noisy on the highway. But the one thing that I really dislike about this car, that I also disliked about its smaller sibling, the Murano, is the steering. I think it's hydraulic. It's just so heavy, and it just feels really out of character for a vehicle like this. It's not too much of a problem when you're at high speeds, although it is a little bit busy on the highway. You have to do a lot of steering correction on the highway. Where it really gets annoying is when you're trying to maneuver into like a tight parking spots. We don't have the 360-degree camera because we don't have the fully loaded Pathfinder, but when you're trying to just get into a tight spot, oh my god, the steering is just so heavy and you really have to use your muscles to get it in. And since this is such a big vehicle, parking is not that difficult to begin with, so the heavy steering definitely doesn't help with that. So the driving experience hasn't changed much. The Pathfinder hasn't been redesigned since 2012. I'm looking next year for Nissan to introduce all new engine options on a completely updated Pathfinder. And if the driving experience didn't tip you off as to the Pathfinder's age, the interior definitely will. So let's go ahead and pull over and take a look at the interior. Welcome back to 2012. Obama is your president, and Gangnam Style is rocketing up the music charts, and the Nissan Pathfinder is actually quite new. That's because this car hasn't really been updated since it arrived back in the 2013 model year, and it definitely shows here on the infotainment. You can tell what I'm on about by clicking one simple button. I'm going to push audio here, and let's look at our sources. FM, normal, Sirius XM, AM, nobody uses that. Disc, okay, that dates it a little bit because cars don't have CD players. iPod. Yeah, Nissan didn't ever think iPod was ever going to go out of style, but yeah, that definitely proves this infotainment system is pretty dated. We have a button that says apps, but don't expect to find Apple CarPlay or Android Auto there. Not available on any Pathfinder trim. This whole system of this touchscreen with this directional pad, you can control it with this rotating knob, and you can also use the directional arrows. I think this has been around, I remember first seeing this on Infinitis back in like 2007, 2008, so it's really even older than 2012, at least the origins of it. So yeah, like I said, no CarPlay, no Android Auto. You do get a little helper screen here in the center console. It doesn't really show all that much. You can't even get your fuel economy up on it. The only way to do that is to go here on the main screen to info and then click fuel economy, and that'll give you your fuel economy. You can't actually get it up here. That's kind of weird. We have the SV trim of the Pathfinder. You can also get the SL trim, which is a little nicer. So basically, we don't have heated and ventilated seats. We do have heated seats, partial cloth here. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the Rock Creek Edition has this interesting cloth on the inside, leatherette on the outside, orange stitching. Actually looks kind of cool. We also get this unique aluminum trim here on the Rock Creek Edition. There are some things that I do like about this interior. We've got plenty of storage space here with 2 USBs. We've got a USB and a USB-C. See, maybe Nissan does know what year it's in. We also have this old school radio presets here, 1 through 6. I kind of miss those in cars. You just set it, you hold the button down, and it'll set your radio station. I kind of miss that, and I wish more automakers did that. We actually have soft materials in a lot of spaces here, although this is hard injection molded plastic all over the dashboard. The door cards are actually really soft. They have like soft material going all the way down to the bottom. So not a terrible interior, but this dates it quite a bit. Now we're going to go find out where the Pathfinder does earn back a little bit of competitive nature, which is in its spaciousness. Back here, we actually have a really good amount of legroom in the second row, 41.7 inches to be exact. So I can come back and I can sit here, and I also have slide I also have recline. So the back seat back here is pretty darn comfortable. We also have our own climate controls. We also have another USB port and another USB-C port. So plenty of places to charge. We've got cup holders here on the door. So that's pretty practical. Getting into the third row is also extremely easy. We have one tab here that says cargo mode. That's gonna fold the seat flat. But here we have our lever to get into the third row. What it's gonna do is it's gonna bring up the seat bottom here, giving you this huge amount of space to get into the third row. That's pretty good. The only trouble is, you see how this seat bottom comes up? I don't think that's going to be compatible with car seats. So if you do have a car seat, maybe put it on that side and then use this to get into the third row. But yeah, not car seat friendly. But then once I hop into the back here, I actually have 19.8 inches of legroom, which seems small to me. The seat is obviously in its forward position right now, and it's going to be hard for me to adjust it back, but I have plenty of knee room back here. I've got some vents so I can stay cool, and I have plenty of headroom back here, although cargo space is going to be hampered when I have the third row up. Cargo capacity in the Pathfinder is actually quite good. Even with the third row up, you're going to get 16.2 cubic feet of space. Fold down the third row and you're going to have 47.2 cubic feet. If you fold down all three rows, you're going to have a massive amount of space, 79.5 cubic feet of space. And if none of that is enough for you, there is a little bit more storage underneath the floor in the third row. So I think if I had to get a Pathfinder, this SV four-wheel drive Rock Creek Edition is exactly how I would do it. It costs a little over $40,000, which is about the max that I'd be willing to spend on a Pathfinder. And I feel like Nissan will give you a good deal on one of these right now because it hasn't been redesigned in such a long time. The only problem is you start to poke into the infotainment and the drivetrain and you realize that this is an 8-year-old SUV and it is starting to be dated compared to a lot of its competitors. Can I hear a Telluride? Can I hear a Palisade? So in that context, the Nissan Pathfinder just isn't strong enough to me. It does have really easy to configure seats and a lot of space in the back, but that's just not enough when the competition is just so much newer, which is why the Pathfinder is going to earn a score of shop around. I hope you've enjoyed this video. See you next time.